There's been a lot of uproar recently about Sony announcing that they are ceasing to produce physical games, which for a lot of gamers has become something of a controversy. And a lot of this comes down to preservation, but as well as being able to physically own a tangible thing for your gaming console. And I think in a lot of ways we've seen the stark decline in physical games generally. In a lot of ways, for me, I look at gaming as the pre instruction booklet and post instruction booklet era. It seemed like once we lost our instruction booklets and our game cases, that we were on a slow decline. And what I mean is, even then, when you look at the Xbox One and the PS4, a lot of these games in some cases weren't even on the full disc, and you still had to have a lengthily large download to properly play it, or have a massive update to even experience the full game when it does come out. And so I guess I've already been a little bit desensitized. But with this being said, one of the things that I actually championed, and I got a lot of flack for this, and I'm still here to champion it right now, is Nintendo's approach with game key cards. And I think in a lot of ways, when you look at the landscape of what's occurring, Nintendo was and is ahead of the curve in being able to still give people the opportunity to have a physical game, but also keep it more publisher friendly by giving publishers the opportunity to have a cheaper, lower cost method to execute this. And in this video, I'm going to go over why I like this model and still support this model, and why, despite what a lot of gamers would love, this is probably the best route moving forward. So let's take a look. If you followed this channel for a while, I'll be the first to admit that I do like physical games. I tend to buy as many physical games as I can, especially when it comes to Silent Hills or Resident Evils. I've almost always bought those physically. I like looking at the artwork. I like having the game. I like knowing that if down the road I don't want to play the game anymore or just simply don't like it, I can trade it in. I like knowing that I have those options. However, when it comes to multiplayer games, or even to a greater extent, if it comes to a single player game that my son's also interested in, I almost always buy digital. And the reason for that is I have a Series X, my son has a Series S, and we are able to consoles or game share between those consoles. So I do have a lot of digital games as well, and if I ever buy a game digitally over physical, it's 99% of the time for that reason. And in a lot of ways, especially in recent years, that's been a very common reason. So I'm definitely not buying as many physical games as I once was. However, single player, mature games only, I'm almost always going to buy physically, like Silent Hill F or Resident Evil 9. Those are games that I absolutely bought physically, and I was all excited to get like the free pack-in posters and those sorts of things with those games. But one of the things that we also have to look at, and I brought it up in the intro to this video, most of these games nowadays that you're getting, they either come shipped without the full game anyways, so you're gonna have to have a massive download anyways to get the game playable on your console, or they come shipped on the disc with either broken or a lesser version, and you're gonna have to get a big update anyways. So there is a bit of a bittersweetness to this, and it's been like this for a while. And like I said earlier in the video, I look at a lot of the physical media as pre-instruction booklet and post-instruction booklet, right? So when you lost your instruction booklets, it was like, this is when we saw this steady decline happen, where we got partial games on discs and those sorts of things. And so I got kind of accustomed to this and kind of thought to myself, you know what, this is kind of the model of where gaming's going. At least I'm still fortunate enough to have the case that I can look at and tangibly say I own it. But I accepted the fact that a lot of the games that are coming out aren't the full game on the discs for the most part. Now, I'm not saying that's every game, and I'm sure someone in the comment section will remind me that one game was 100% on the disc, but I will say it seems to happen more often than not, and I would say almost 100% of the time, you have an update of some sort, because the version you got wasn't as polished as it could have been, so the developers released a first day update or a first week update or month in update, depending on what it is, right? So it's not like the old days where you bought a GameCube game and that was the game you got, or you bought even a PS2 game or PS3 game and that was, for the most part, the game you got, although that was around the time that started to happen. So when Nintendo basically announced that they were going to be releasing game key cards as well as physical, fully packed in games on their, basically that's the two options you have, I was completely open to it, because the way I looked at it was, I'm going to have a first day download anyways. And I was more open to it because this also meant that in the future, Nintendo has offered a way for publishers to have a more economical way to produce a physical game, but cut down some of the costs, meaning they would still be likely to produce physical games. And for some people, this is a big absolute no. This should not happen. And I don't fully agree with that, because the alternative is publishers are just going to purely not release anything and just release them as digital only games as well. I like the option of being able to have a game that I can choose to do whatever I want with, whether that's to keep it, whether that's to trade it in. And unfortunately, the future we're in, or the current time period that we're in, almost all games are dependent on some sort of internet at this point to get the best version anyways. So you're almost always stuck with some sort of first day update or some sort of download for the game. So having a game key card that I'm going to have to just download the game with anyways, to me, I thought was a great idea. And I think this is an even better idea, because it paves the way at this point in time for developers to continue and publishers to continue to release physical media. Gives people that tangible feeling of having like a boxed game or a cool box set game without all the high overhead costs that you would have associated with physical media. And I don't think Microsoft or Sony have really considered that approach, and I doubt they will. I think they're going to keep it streamlined and just continuously kind of move away from physical media entirely and kind of take more of a PC gaming route. I'm happy that Nintendo is still offering that flexibility, and I own a lot of game key cards. If you look at my Switch 2 collection, I got a bunch of games that are on game key cards, and I'm completely okay with that. And I'm okay with that, again, like I said earlier, because I have the volition to do what I want with these games, whether that's trade it in, whether that's sell it. I like being able to do that. I know some gamers, this might be completely taboo, but that's just how I operate. And I think that having that flexibility and that choice, I'm okay with that. And with that being said, I know one of the biggest arguments is going to be game preservation, but again, once those games are downloaded, there's no doubt in my mind that people can figure out how to properly back these files up and have them on another piece of media for eternity if they wanted to anyways. So to me, I don't feel like that's as big of a deal. Again, because there's so many ways to do that and dump items from another device and preserve them that way. So ultimately, I think as physical media starts to die, I am still appreciative that we have options like the game key cards in the market to kind of continue that moving forward in the future of gaming with a console like Nintendo Switch 2.